Pardon? Was she? Right.
No, that's a church.
Why?
Because it's been raining.
Model village.
No, the other house is in there. It's a model village. Everything's scaled down. Should have an apple.
Where's this?
No, that's it.
Oh, sure.
No, it's too dirty for that. No, because I think all the men will get out of it. Too dirty. Oh, that's leaning over.
We've actually arrived in what's called the Bailey. If you want to try and take with you, you're coming on a sweet round. We've come into a Bailey, and this particular Bailey is called the Outer Bailey. Baileys in castles were really enclosed areas. They called them enclosed area or courtyard. And the idea of a Bailey in a castle is to make one so that if you were in this particular area, there was a battle going on, and you happened to get the attackers came in, you could move to number 2 Bailey, which is another completely enclosed area, and at this castle number 3, which was over there, we've got 3 Baileys here, and all of them were completely surrounded by a wall. But we're supposed to be quite safe to be in there. Right, let's have a look then. We're in the Outer Bailey. The gatehouse I told you about from the other side, you can see a little bit from this side. The right hand below ground level area is where which was a living accommodation. So you can see where there's been a fireplace in the wall just behind. I'm sorry about the scaffolding there, it's a bit unfortunate. The thing is, it began to crumble into pieces, so they've had to put the stuff from falling. When I say falling, it's under the roofing. Just a little bit of interest about that building. In 1981, the Ministry of Works, who are now English Heritage, came and did some work here to stop the castle from deteriorating. And the work they did was of very third-rate nature. And the work they did on that was the entrance. It's beginning to come loose again, so that's why they are now having to do the work again that was done in 1981, which is rather unfortunate. Anyway, they're going to redo it and build it slightly higher when they're finished. 4 places to go in there. The right-hand side was a living section because in gatehouses, which were known as mini castles, people lived in them. And there'd be about 15 or 20 people, including children, would have lived in there and would have completely controlled that particular gatehouse. Left-hand side, ground level, that's where they would have had a little courtroom, spiral staircase would have gone up to the upper level where people would have lived, slept, etc. The steps on the right-hand corner, they would have taken you into the upper level and also on top of a wall, because this wall had a wall walk going all the way around, which really meant if there's a battle going on, you would have had men on top of this wall behind the usual castle-type battlement, and they would all have been along the top of you. You could have walked all the way around and back here. At this side, when they built the castle, they said we'll not build as thick a wall at that side because it's so steep, it's unlikely we'll ever get attacked on that side, and it proved to be correct. Never were attacked on that side. So with having a thinner wall, you couldn't walk on the top. So if you look in that wall, you see little holes in the side. If you look in other places, you see holes. That's where they put pieces of timber in the wall and a platform on the top. So when you're at that side, you walk around the side of the wall at this side along the top of the wall. Left-hand corner there, you have what's called the Horseshoe Tower. In fact, the height it was built for, so it hasn't much altered that. We've got a couple of floors in. just passed a rather interesting example of a medieval Ford Transit van. It isn't rusting yet. You've got the iron railings there, which at one time would have housed the stables and the blacksmith shop, that sort of thing. And then coming across here, you've got these little ledges in the ground here. Queen Elizabeth in the 1570s got word about being starved out of the castle, as I told you what happened with the second siege, and in fact they built these ledges to make gardens and grow vegetables, etc. So that's why they're levelled out. It's simply to produce food on site because they're always worried about being starved out. Coming around this side, don't worry about the leaning towers there because I'll show you those and give you a good photographic point shortly. Just in front of us, a little hole in the ground there, you can just see it, just to this side of where the lady's sitting. That's the first drinking water well, of course, the top bit of, which had been covered in, and there's an octagonal wall inside which forms the shaft for the well. They brought some water up, and would you believe it was as pure to drink as you could imagine. This is because it's probably fed from a spring of some sort, and this is a natural chalk hill, so that tends to fit in. Right, if you want to come in here for a second, have a sit down. I'll tell you about attacking and defending then.
Do you want to go on? Do you want to listen? Go on. To where?
Resting place as well, this one. Okay, this is number 3 wall tower. It's part of a series of wall towers which went all the way around this wall. You can see over the one in the corner and one at the bottom. And the idea was that this castle was built to fight with bows and arrows, really. And if you look in each, that was damaged in that corner, unfortunately, but the one across there and the one there, they're pretty good with those. They used to call them arrow loops, or sometimes called arrow slits. And they were there for longbows and crossbows. Although the thinking now things have changed. You never really know in these things what really happened if you go back so long. But the thinking now is these wall towers are built for the crossbow. Now the crossbow was a little smaller, so you held like a rifle. You've probably seen one before, probably something like that. Had a stirrup on the front, and the man that shoot them could always be sure he had some sort of a wheel on his belt. This here was a cogwheel because they were so hard to pull this stirrup back up. What they used to do was put his foot in it, forward forward, pass the front with sort of winch arrangement, turn it up, and that brought it back and you ready for shooting again. They didn't shoot arrows with them. It was a bolt, it was called, it was about this long, and they could shoot about 2 bolts per minute, which isn't very many really, and it would go about 100 metres. So really, not very good, but devastatingly accurate at 100 metres. So you would have had a man looking through that side and probably the front, and their job would be to take people that were trying to climb over the wall, hence the side views there, and perhaps the leader down there. So we tend to feel that the crossbow would have been used in here, and really for picking off people who shouldn't be where they are. Now, the longbow. The longbow was another devastating weapon, and at this castle it was still used with the musket in the Civil War. You actually have records that say the longbow was used here. The longbow was normally made to the height of the person, so you ordered one, that's what you went and did, and it would come back spot on your head. One end of it always used to be sharp and point, normally taken out the antlers of a deer, and that would be fixed on the end. The idea would be if you ran out of arrows, and you had them to hold your bow, and it became then another weapon for stabbing people with. So whenever you see the antlers at the end sharpened to a pinpoint, that's what it's there for. Should you run out of arrows, you have another form of combat. In the Robin Hood films, you quite often see quivers passing to the back, so they kept pulling arrows out. According to people that know, that never really happened. That's part of the film industry. They used to carry the arrows on their left in a bygone, could be called a quiver possibly, back down the left top leg there. And then when they got to the front, they used to slip them down, so the arrows would go in there, just leave them on the flanks to keep them up and let them go. So the longbow. Now the difference between the longbow was, a good longbow man would shoot anything up to 15 arrows per minute. That's some going. And they would go normally 300 metres depending on the pull. So 15 hours a minute and a distance of up to 300 metres you could go with them. But what they did, we used to put these men on the top of these walls, about 50 of them of course, and they'd all start shooting. So we had 50 men shooting about 15 hours a minute. And they didn't shoot them at people, they shot them in the sky, and they came down. They used to call that an arrow storm. And all these arrows came down like rainfall. And that's the way they did it, because they knew some arrows must fall on people. That's exactly. So for accuracy, crossbow, for a massive invasion of arrows, the longbow. And of course, during the Battle of Agincourt in Greece, the British drone became more superior. And as it happened there, the British drone was caught, the first thing they did was chop off 2 fingers on his right hand. They knew that was a horrible thing to do. And of course, once his right hand fingers had gone, he couldn't do the rest of it. And that's why they used to do it. So if you hear about that, leads to a thing which I'm not going to tell you today anyway. Before we move on to the last part of it, muskets. Now they did arrive here, and if you ever go to a castle, if you have a look at this slate, look for the clue. It's interesting looking for clues to find out what we have. If you look at that one and that one, there's 2 to look at. First of all, you see the stone, second from the left coming down on the left hand side. There's like a stone slightly wide there. Can you see that? It could become the 3rd stone. And this one, near the top again, slightly wider there. That means that somebody's come along and made it well if you get the barrel through of the musket. The next clue to look for the musket is the 2 holes, one of them chamfered, in the entrance section to where the arrow is made. There you look on that, you see a little hole on the left and another one opposite which is chamfered. And you see that near the front, 3rd stone up from the bottom. Got it? Little hole there? Yeah. You see, and on this one you'll see that's the gentleman who just pointed out those 2 holes for us. It's the panel on the front which is called a priming panel where the gunpowder used to go. And when they were ready, some of them were called flint locks. In other words, they were set off by a spark from a flint. And others were called a tape style. They used to have a burning tape, and all these slow tapes burning all the time. So they used to prod it there and it would come to the explosion. But sometimes the powder used to ignite in the barrel. And when that happened, it caused a flashback. It used to come back and burn the person's face. So what they used to do, when they were ready to shoot with a musket, they'd be all ready and they'd put the finger on the trigger, turn the head away and pull the trigger. They're always afraid of this flashback coming back, because if you were being shot and you were crafty and stepped to one side, you would probably miss you anyway. When you're out in company, if you ever hear anybody say, wasn't that a flash in the pan? Now you know where it comes from. Flash in the pan is from the priming pan. So you know, when somebody see you next time, remind them where it came from. Are you all rested?
Yes.
That was one of it then, right.
Alright. Interested in it. Leaving it running while we're walking up. It's a good thingy. Atmosphere.
Especially at the thing to tell you here. This is the second ditch of Corfe Castle. The first one we walked over at the end of the castle. King John had this ditch dug, 1207 time, something like that. Ditches were always dry, moats would have water, and that's the difference between the two. So you'll find a ditch just runs around part of a castle from that corner to this corner. It would always be dry, and they had a wall running along there originally. So all they did was knock the wall down. You could see bits of it sticking out of the earth and put earth over the top, and that's what forms the base. So it's remove the wall, a bit of wall that sticks out there, that's called a bastion. That was put there in the mid-1500s. Elizabeth was the person in control of that. They did that because they were getting rather worried about the Spanish It's supposed to be a lookout post, but if you stand up there, you can't even surprise me somewhat that while they should build a lookout post worrying about the Armada, you can't see the sea of the Channel. What they did have was a beacon, and I say we've got a mist coming in today. I hope we don't get lost up here this afternoon. And they would have had a beacon on that hill and a beacon on the hill across there, and that would have been the signal, because you can't see the sea from the two high points of the hill, and that's how we would have told everybody it was coming. Never did, of course, if you worry about that. This is the keep up here, and the bit that's attached to it is called the South Annex. The top that was built at the same time as the Tower of London and Norwich Castle, finishing being built, we think, around about 1110 time. So it took quite a while to build, late 1000s, but a very well built building. Top two windows is where the church was. Most castles had their own church, Roman Catholic religion, and it was called Our Lady of St Mary in the Tower. The next two windows, I can take you in there. I can't take you in the church, the roof and the floor's gone now. The next two windows, I can take you in there. I'm not telling you what went on in there, she may not come in, so I'll wait till I get you in and I'll lock the door. Coming down a bit further, we've got two holes there, two square holes, still doing the job they were built for actually. They're drainage holes. The water from the roof was all channeled and finished up coming through those two openings there. They also had a number of grotesque use, which was they didn't have a proper toilet system in Castle, so untreated sewage, in fact raw sewage would have come through those two holes as well, without water. They just used to come through and wend its way down this hillside here. And I often think if it had been stood here in the 1100s and the wind was in the right direction, I bet we'd have moved quicker than we do today. Just below those two holes, you can see stones being removed from there. If you remember, we said in 1646 they came to demolish the castle by an act of Parliament, and that was part of the demolition. We have a record on that, and what it says is that 5 men were told to go in there, remove as much stone as possible, and after a week to finish the job, there were 5 men in the foreman apparently, and then stand at one side, and the idea was, without any footings, it was fall. The main charge came out apparently on the 16th of May 1646 and said, right, we've removed everything from under there, there's nothing left. Every little corner stone apart from these two front corners have been removed, a lot of digging and the whole thing. He said it will come down in the next few days. And he said, and the final bit says, and if there's a strong wind that will help it on its way. Little did they know it would be still standing today in 1995. And the interesting thing is, no more stones come out and no more has gone in. So it's been left entirely as they left it, and it's still there yet. After saying that, shall we move? Just a chance.
It's interesting to understand. Well, when they took it, they're going to put it down, and they fix the stairway.
Brilliant, isn't it?
The man in the cafe.
Well, now, sat near them.
Hi Sam. Imagine being under there. That's a shit collapse while they were under. Don't build them like that nowadays.
Well, go a little bit up there, you can, or on here, doesn't matter. I can just touch you in a portal there. You could really say today, we always tell people this, that you're probably into a time warp really, because what you're seeing today is what happened in 1646. And really nothing's been done since, it's just been left as it's left in 1646. You're in a very unusual time warp. Right, well let's look at this. This is a second gatehouse, very much like the one on the bottom, built about 1250. You can see it's broken away there. Now, what happened here is a book called Hutchinson's History of Dorset. And in there it tells you about this particular gatehouse through the children of children who passed it down. That's got the record. They went in through that door there, again to demolish this particular unit. The idea was to dig inside, and it's on a hill you see, and the idea was, after the not very good success with that one, to dig it in the whole thing would come down. happened was, instead of going that way, it slid this way. And it slid as they were inside, according to this particular record, and they all got out. But the earth shot up inside, and it's come halfway up the doorway, and it's quite a long way down. So the fact the earth did come up inside, it stopped it in its tracks. And the experts who did some measurements last year said it has to move at all. It stopped there in 1646, it didn't move at all. So the earth has come up, the earth is holding it in position inside. Another interesting thing here, that stone is the links to the door. If you ever go around, especially in the Purbeck area, and you see stone that's breaking away, it doesn't look as good as the other stone, you can always tell that's Purbeck marble, because they used material marble, but there's a misunderstanding that it was a stronger stone. Marble has just been taken to Salisbury Cathedral from along this coastline, because they used to dig marble from under the sea. It doesn't come from land, it's always situated under the sea at digging. And marble, when it's not polished, does that, it tends to break away. So if you see stone in this castle that's breaking a little bit more on the top of that door, you can see breaking away there. You can always say to anybody, that's a bit of Purbeck marble, it wasn't polished, and it tends not to get very good. Right, now we've got another bridge here, like the first one we came over. Again, no fence, the fence has been put there for safety reasons. What we would have had though was a drawbridge. There would have been a drawbridge at this gatehouse, and a drawbridge at that one, and 1250 time we're talking about. When you look up and see round holes like that, there'll be two on that side that will drop down. That's the clue that tells us being a drawbridge, because they used to have a drawbridge on a counter that would have come like that. It had 4 chains on with a round piece of wood just at the end. They brought it up, pull the chain, plug it in there at both sides, take the chains out and drop the stone back to its own particular section. This little bit of roadway here to where the step wasn't here originally, that's been put in by the National Trust, but just this section here is the only little bit of original roadway left in the whole of the castle. And this bit of roadway here was laid in 1087, and if you can see what looks like loose sand, it's cement actually, cement there and cement there. That tells you the carts that brought the stone up one after another, the distance from Langton the Traverse of 3 miles, oxen pulling carts up. They made a rut in the stonework in this sort of a shape. So we've had to fill them in because people kept slipping in them. But those 2 ruts there are part of the original carts going backwards and forwards, bringing stone in to build the castle. You never believe it. It's a shame we've had to fill them in really. It looked nice when they were there, but so many people have slipped in them, we've had no option really. This here is the channel for a portcullis, and it would have married up to that one there. And if you look at the end of both of these walls, you'll see 2 more channels, which tells us there were channels or portcullises at each end of the gatehouse. And that was because people lived in here, and when they were in they would feel secure, so they would have had one there, and then a complete unit that nobody could officially get into, and that's why you have the portcullises. 10 foot high. Normally it would have been timber encased in metal and would have gone up on a pulley system and come down on a pulley system. That's where the door was there. Doors in castles always opened inwards, and the way they locked them, you'll see a hole where the gentleman is there just behind yourself. So there's a large hole. Somebody would go in the other side, put a long piece of timber through that hole, through by the side of the doors, and it would have hit a hole which has dropped down now on that side. That was called a drawbar, going through a drawbar hole, and that's a simple way they lock the doors, just push a piece of timber through. The last bit to tell you here is the most dreaded of the lot, because this castle does have murder holes, and if you look up there, and it would have joined to that section there, you'll see daylight up the top, and you've got a number of channels going across here, and those are called murder hole channels. And what would have happened if there was an attack going on? Other castles have them, by the way, it's not just at Corfe. If you came through here and got past the drawbridge, got past the portcullis, and you're up to these doors here, there'd be men sat up there looking down on you, fed exactly as you people have stood. You're right in the firing range there.
Right.
And what they would have had up there was a cauldron of boiling water. A lot of people say boiling oil, but we don't think oil would have been used because it would have had to be animal oil, and that was very scarce. So we think water would have been up there. It seems more logical. Quicklime, that was up there as well. red hot sand, they used to heat sand up, and stones of all sizes. So once you've got to this section, they'll be watching, and at the precise moment of start, they would start pouring water down these chutes. All boiling water would come down on people in this area, followed by quicklime to do the job properly, and the various things they had up there. And in fact, it was a very thorough way of killing people. If you got there, you wouldn't stay there, like I can assure you that once they started. One final thing to say, because if I forget to tell you, somebody will ask me, where this lady stood full enough where that stone where your 2 feet are, that's where a murder took place at one time. The boy King Edward, later known as Edward the Martyr, was murdered here, but this was before there was a castle. In the year 978 he'd been out hunting, and his stepmother, Queen Elfrida, who had a wooden building at the top of here, came down with her maidservant when he was murdered, stabbed in the back. And this is where it happened, and this gatehouse used to be called Edward the Martyr's Gate, and that's why it was. The church is named after Edward the Martyr. There's some houses named after him, so that's the spot. X marks the spot. There you are. I'm going to go through that door there, I'll show you inside. Now the wall.
Are you freezing?
Are you paying for your car? It's a free car.
Surprised.
You close the castle, you see.
That's right.
I wanted something
Yes, they have. Right, yes, we've got some good reasons anyway. Yeah. It's not that much to park, is it, on there? Okay, right, we're all in. Just one or two things to tell you in here. Let's start at this level we are now, because this is a basement of the building. You can see the arrow loop or arrow slit there. Now an extra cross piece has gone in there. That means it's been really, that one is known as a loop that would take a crossbow. So you could angle it better with that little bit going across. So that's there really for the crossbow. A lot of people come in here and say to us as we're walking down sometimes, is that of some religious significance? It isn't really, although they were called crucifix loops for a time because of the obvious reason. So if you ever see them, nothing at all to do with religion, it's purely for the crossbow. There would have been a floor going along. You can see where that nice stone finishes there, and around here about this level. That was floor number 1. Floor number 2 was where it sticks out up there. The way to get to the floor was in this corner here. It had a spiral staircase, and you can see where that gap is. That's a piece of stone sticking out, which would be one of the many steps going up there. You probably know how they used to make them from stone, and that's how they got from floor to floor. They even got to the very top where the battlements were. Also in here, you'll notice rough stone at this level, and rough stone here. Well, originally in 1250, when they finished this part, it would have had nice smooth stone called ashlar coming round here, and it would have looked something like that wall all the way on. But what actually happened, when they came to demolish the castle, a lot of people thought, remember, there were only a few cottages in Corfe Castle there, and a lot of people thought as the place lay derelict, that they could come along here and remove stone. Hence, most of Corfe village is built with stone procured from this castle. When you have a look round in some of the houses there, you'll see engravings of portcullises sometimes in the wall, and that came from the bottom gatehouse which used to have them in the wall. So as long as you know, most of Corfe Castle was built very cheaply, although when they sell the houses there, nothing at all like it. It all changes somewhere. So there you are. So that's what happened with the stone. A few things also to tell you here. There we've got a medieval fireplace that would have been built for use in here. You can see the chimney on the right hand side. Just a few stones missing. That's exactly how it would have been when it was built in 1250. Would have had a wooden fire, so it would have kept warm. 15 or so people lived in here. Would have cooked on it, and probably a bit of light would have come from it to help with the candles, and of course the candles told them the time as well, because the candles, while giving light, had notches all the way down, and each notch meant an hour, and that was the time where they would have told the time in here. When you hear that other saying, in the nick of time, you know where that comes from. That's where it started lighting. So we've told you all about in here, nothing much else to tell you in here except on the floors, no carpets, would have been dry brushes. Mixed with the dried brushes would have certainly been probably some sort of dried herbs. The herbs gave the room a nice smell. So a floor full of rushes, and mix with hers to make it smell
Be
nice. Sleeping
careful.
accommodation
Get down.
for 15 or 20 that lived in here would have been very communal, probably straw mattresses on the floor, and that's how they would have managed, and that was the way they did it in those days. Anybody, you must have all noticed this rather peculiar looking bit of stonework around. Does anybody know what it is? I always ask that because every now and again we get surprised, as we were last week with the first person this year that's guessed it, and it happened he was a guide at Canterbury Cathedral. We should have known it anyway, really. But I just wonder if anybody does know what it is. A lady from Canada last year, I shall always remember this, she put her hand up at the back and said, I know what it is, I've seen them on the films. I said, well, tell us. They said, it is an elevator indicator. Have you seen it? The needle that goes round. I actually thought it was a lift here at one time. Still in the dungeon for that, really. Anybody know what it is? Well, if you can try and imagine, if you look at this lintel here, it does have a hairline crack in it anyway. You can see the lintel there, it's not a very good lintel. They must have had problems at one time of getting lintels. So the weight above is absolutely tremendous. It would have been higher. So they were worried about the whole thing collapsing over the door. So they built a weight relief arch, which is what it's called. It goes through to the other end as well, all the way on. And the idea was it moves the weight to the left and to the right. And it's been doing the job since 1250 and it's still there yet. You normally find them in churches quite often. So have a look around when you go to church next time. Right.